Thank you all for being here. My name is John Pellicio. I'm the head of product marketing for Bose Automotive Systems. To my right is Jeff Vautin. He is a principal acoustic engineer at Bose and the head of our audio engineering center of excellence. And on the far side here is Dave Royfe, who is our senior director of product at Automotive. So it's great to have you guys on the stage with me. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to the conference committee for giving us the coveted after lunch on the last day of the conference presentation slot. But we promise to make this worth your while. I think we've got some really interesting things to talk about this afternoon. Maybe just starting with a show of hands, has anybody seen the Bose demonstration that we have here at the show? Yeah, a few. Okay, good. So a shameless plug, we're in booth 713, right near the front when you walk in. We've got a demonstration about what we call seat-centric listening experiences. And we're going to delve a little bit into what those mean and why it matters in terms of, as it says in the title here, being able to create a personalized in-cabin experience with sound. Dave, maybe you can kick us off. I guess personalized listening experiences give you the sense that we can let people sort of listen to what they want, when they're inside the car. So can you maybe talk a little bit first in broad strokes about how that ties into Bose's broader long-range vision?
Yeah, thanks, John. So Bose's long-range vision really has multiple components to it, all of which center around the customer. Mm-hmm. In terms of innovation, there's 3 technology franchises that we focus on. And I'm going to start talking about one that's a little bit different from the topic of today's discussion. Let's start with noise removal. Noise removal is critical. When you're in a cabin, it's really important that you have quiet. Quiet is comfort. Quiet is luxury. And by creating the environment in which there is no noise, and you really remove all of that noise, you create a really great canvas upon which to paint our second technology franchise, which is immersive audio. Immersive audio can transport you to places that you haven't been in a very long time. It can transport you to a concert hall or a venue where you've experienced your favorite artist for the first time. It can transport you to when you first met your significant other. And so immersive audio is something that we're really proud of and we spend a lot of time and energy on. What we're going to talk about today actually sits at the intersection of both of those things around hearing what you want. That's our third technology franchise, and it really anchors a lot of the work that we're doing in the seat-centric experience space.
All right, so can you talk a little bit about some of the problems that are present when you have a cabin full of people, whether they're a family driving together, whether it's people in a rideshare situation? What are some of the things that we're trying to solve with Seatcentric?
Yeah, maybe another show of hands from the audience here. How many people like the exact same music, podcasts as their significant others, or family members, or people that they're happening to share a vehicle with? Not a whole lot of people raising their hands out there, right? So, this is at the center of a lot of the problems that we're trying to solve. Every seat has its opportunity to have a unique experience, and the personalization in the vehicle really matters when we think about the type of seat-centric experiences we can bring to bear. Whether you're in a rideshare and you really don't know the people that you're sharing your vehicle with, or whether you're with your family and your kids are in the back and want to listen to a certain type of music that maybe is not really your taste, being able to create that personalized experience really helps. And that's at the center of the problems we're trying to solve.
And I imagine that there are a significant number of technical hurdles that come along with this. So I don't know, I guess we can sort of do it 2 ways. Either Dave, you can maybe talk a little bit about some of the solutions, right, that we've brought, but then I think we're immediately going to want to bring Jeff in to talk about some of the technical hurdles that help to solve those solutions. So you mentioned the whole thing about not wanting to listen to the same music or at the same volume, right, as the person in the passenger seat. So what are we doing to fix that?
Yeah, so one of the technologies we've focused on creating, and we actually have a demonstration of this here today, is around independent volume control in the front row of a vehicle. And so the seat-centric experience there is really allowing the driver and the front passenger the ability to control the volume of the music, within some bounds that actually prevents the other passengers in the vehicle from really hearing too much of that bleed over.
So it's like the dual climate control knobs, right?
Exactly, yeah. You can think about that but for music and sound.
All right.
Absolutely.
And I imagine that there are significant technical challenges that go along with being able to do that, right? Every picture I've ever seen that depicts sound in a car just shows reflections coming from everywhere, right, off the seats and off the windows. And so, Jeff, maybe talk a little bit about what we're doing to fix that from a technical standpoint.
Absolutely. So the technical challenges are vast, right? The automotive environment, we typically talk about it internally as a combination of one of the most anechoic environments you can be in and one of the harshest reflective environments you can be in, depending on the frequency you're looking at or the occupant or other factors. It just varies wildly. And so actually trying to control the distribution of audio so that each occupant does have that independent control, it is a significant challenge, right? The end state of that vision would be, total perceptual isolation, total independence of the experience, or if desired, complete ability to share the experience as we do today in kind of all seat experiences. Where we are in the demonstration vehicle we have in the booth, we've got a set of technologies there, a combination of signal processing, tuning optimization capabilities, acoustic structures that enable us to achieve a very meaningful level of isolation for an initial set of experiences, as Dave was talking about. So if I need to take a conference call and my son wants to hear for the 40th time this week, Bangarang by Skrillex, where we can have a little bit of each happening and we can both accomplish the job we want to accomplish in peace.
So your son's 6, right?
Yes.
When we get to the Q&A, someone asked Jeff about
Yeah.
why his 6-year-old son is listening to Skrillex. I want to unpack that a little.
I don't.
But so you said something else that was interesting, right? So now in addition to talking about listening to the same music at different volumes, we actually can do things like start to route phone calls. And I guess, we have all been in the situation where we're the mean dad that has to make everybody in the car stop listening to music, right? Because we snuck out of work early and we're trying to catch up on a Teams call or a Zoom call. So Dave, maybe can you describe a little bit about how this Seatcentric stuff helps with things like phone calls?
For sure. From a call placement perspective, we're able to sort of route the call depending on the location where you want that call. So it's not perfect isolation, as Jeff said, right? These experiences are really meant to solve the more near-term problem of having multiple occupants in the vehicle and being able to experience the different types of sounds you want to hear. From a Seatcentric call placement perspective, if you have a call, you're able to take this call in a way that you can hear the call in the audio, but the person on the far end doesn't hear a lot of the other background noise in the vehicle if music is still playing. And you're also able to create that isolation so that, let's say you're in an environment where you're talking about something confidential or you really just don't want to disturb the other passengers in the vehicle. You're able to do that without necessarily having that audio from your phone call bleed over into the music that others may be enjoying in the vehicle.
All right, and then maybe just to touch for a second, Jeff, on something you said. You talked about acoustic structures and signal processing. Are these conventional speakers in conventional places? How many of them do we need, right? Talk a little bit about the packaging, right, that we have to get into in order to be able to provide these Seatcentric experiences.
Absolutely. There are, I'd say, 2 broad foundational technologies we've got in the vehicle that enable the experiences. So the first one is what we call our Perceptual sound rendering engine. This is on the signal processing and tuning optimization front. This allows us to give perceptual targets to each seat in the car. So whether that is where you're hearing the sound originate from, spectral shape you'll perceive, or the level of sound, and optimize the experience within the constraints of a given acoustic layout.
So you can feed the system the degrees of freedom that it has.
Yeah.
There are speakers in all these locations. Right. Use the speakers to do this and not that.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And then we couple that with what we call UltraNearfield speaker technology. So these are speakers that are packaged in very close proximity to the occupant. So it might be in the seat back or in the headrest. And we've invested a lot of time into understanding the packaging challenges around this, both from an integration perspective, but also critically from an acoustic performance perspective, making sure that when combined with the Perceptual sound rendering engine, we're able to achieve meaningful isolation between seats. We're able to achieve excellent binaural control, and we're able to do that over a wide region of space in the vehicle.
I'm just thinking, I gave a demo to somebody yesterday who pointed out that he had a 1984 Fiero, right, that also had speakers in the headrests. These are clearly different.
Yeah.
What are we doing, to be able to use these as the acoustic instruments you're describing, and not just sort of punching sound into the back of your head?
Or different than fader or balance or things
Or
like that.
yeah,
No, that's a good point too. Yeah, right. A lot of people do get in the car and ask, well, how does this differ, right? The ability to route the sound to the seat. How does this differ from what we do with fader balance? And you'd actually be amazed if you measured the amount of attenuation you achieve when you fade forward, if you're in the second row, or vice versa. There's very little attenuation. There's a sense of spatial change, but at some frequencies you may not see any attenuation. Some you might see a few dB. So with the active control in low frequencies, we can get to, and I don't want to put a number on it because the way you measure the experiences has a huge bearing on the number you report. So I think the subjective experience is really the best way to take it in initially. But we can achieve a significantly greater level of attenuation than you can achieve with conventional fade and balance. On the UltraNearfield speaker front, to your point about the 84 Fiero, yeah. The combination of the transducers, the acoustic structures they're in, and the specific packaging of those structures gives us the ability to deliver fully binauralized experience there. So when you're turning your head, you may have mild awareness that there's a speaker there, but you shouldn't be hearing it poke you in the ear in the way I think the experience you're talking about alludes to, right? Our general approach to sound is that you should never hear the work an individual speaker is doing to create the system, right? It should all work together in harmony to reinforce the experience, and the UltraNearfield speakers are no exception to that.
And I think in the course of that discussion, you poked at another interesting problem, right, that we can use this to solve. And this is the use case of people in the back seats not wanting to listen to the same thing as the people in the front seats, right? We talked about how many people have kids who like the same music as their parents, right? So if you're in a family situation and you've got kids in the back who want to do one thing and adults in the front who want to do the other thing, we can use Seatcentric to help support that use case as well, right?
Yeah, to a degree today, that's true, John. I think, in terms of what we're capable of right now and where we're sort of focusing on, and Jeff alluded to this a few minutes ago, we're really focusing on what we call seat-centric, rear seat attenuation. So the ability to kind of really shape that back seat experience and isolate in a way front to back that actually allows the rear occupants of the vehicle the ability to have a sort of a quieter experience overall.
So we've got three different things on offer, right? We talked about seat-centric call placement, where you can route calls to the driver's seat and have other people keep listening to music. We talked about seat-centric volume control. People can change the volume, listen to the same music at different volumes. And now the back row can enjoy quiet, right, while the front row is listening to music. Are we presenting these to, we talked about being consumer focused, right, as well. So what has the end user reaction been to this stuff? And what learning are we taking away as we talk to real people about these experiences?
Yeah, really good question around sort of the end consumer feedback. We've spent a lot of time doing end consumer research on this, and it's not just the end consumer research of the experience itself, which has been largely positive. It's also around the UI and the UX that you actually use to get into and out of these experiences that we found is critically important in terms of helping to demonstrate the value and the usability of some of the problems that we're solving here with this technology. So that feedback's been really positive. We've also shared this with several OEMs and have received positive feedback there as well via multiple demonstrations, both at their locations and at other events just like this one.
So that's an interesting observation too, right? So this, if you're going to do something complicated like have a phone call just play in one seat, you don't want that option to be buried 8 layers deep in a series of submenus, right? Because nobody will ever use it. It needs to be sort of higher up in the stack.
It needs to be higher up in the stack, and it needs to be natural, right? Everybody in this room, I suspect at this point, is walking around with a smartphone of some sort or another in their pocket that has a pretty substantial amount of user interface and design that went into that, and so similar sorts of design language needs to be considered when thinking about more advanced seat-centric experiences like what we're offering here.
All right, and I guess just to touch a little bit on the readiness of this technology, right?
Sure.
So there's a lot of concept cars right out on the show floor. So
yeah.
on a scale of like vaporware to ready for sale, where are we in terms of the experiences that are in that Cayenne?
We're ready. I mean, these are things that we can offer today. Obviously, it depends on what model years OEMs would be targeting, but these experiences are mature. We have, again, done end consumer research. We feel confident about the experiences and the quality of the experience in terms of the amount of isolation that we can deliver, and look forward to getting these in the market over the next couple of years.
So maybe we can talk just a little bit about the future too,
Yeah.
right? These are steps along a continuum. Is the goal to be able to listen to completely different content, at the same time in all four seats? Where are we trying to get to?
I mean, that is absolutely the vision, right? That's the end state I think we're interested in, and a lot of the folks we've spoken with are interested in getting to that state. But it is going to be a journey, right? The number of transducers you'll need to integrate to manage the harshness of the acoustic environment, the compute required for the signal processing will be substantial. But I think as I mentioned, right, the perceptual sound rendering engine as a foundation and the UltraNearfield speaker capability, which at this point we're something like 20 years into the UltraNearfield speaker journey.
Yeah, we've been doing it since 2002, 2003.
Yeah, right. So the capability we've built, that foundation, is the platform that will take us in the direction of that vision. And we definitely want to connect and integrate more capability, right? Mm-hmm. That's where we want to head.
How many speakers are at play in that concept car that we have out there?
So a lot of those experiences are driven by, let's see, do quick math. Something like, I think it's like 14 or so speakers are driving.
Okay, so that's not out of the question for packaging in a vehicle.
Yeah.
I think one of the keys, though, Jeff, that you talked about is this sort of notion of the system-level design that's required in order to enable that type of experience. Both today and as we talk about the future a little bit, sort of where we're heading, that system-level integration, not just with the acoustic structures, the near-field transducers, as well as the perceptual sound rendering engine, but also the UI, the UX, and a lot of the other signals that we'll need over time exposed by various layers across the stack. It's going to be important for us to be able to deliver that type of experience.
And I guess, maybe just one other question for you as the product guy, Dave, right?
Sure.
We not for nothing make a lot of headphones and earbuds. And so could I just solve this problem by giving everybody in the car a pair of earbuds and calling it a day?
One could. It's not the most social experience in the world, right? There is something to be said about while you're in a small environment like a vehicle, that while you may want that isolation, you may want your own individualized or personalized experience, you still want to be present. I'm sure a lot of folks watch movies and things like that with their families, and some kids are on their phones and some are on a tablet, and maybe others are reading, dare I say, a physical book in the room. But that sort of environment still allows for that social experience and feel that connection. And so similarly, when you think about the future, wearable devices and the integration of broad-end wearable devices is going to be important in the vehicle over time.
So that's something that we're investigating as well as a wearable device manufacturer, as well as an automotive manufacturer.
Yeah, obviously, we're somewhat uniquely positioned to be able to do that, given some of the technology that we have and that we share across both automotive and our consumer electronics organizations. It's certainly an area of interest of ours, and I think that's an opportunity to deliver some unique and compelling experiences in the seat-centric environment in the vehicle going forward.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to jump to Q&A in just a second, but before I do that, maybe just any summaries or key takeaways from either of you want people to walk away thinking after having listened to this discussion?
I think anybody who hasn't had a chance to check out the car, we'd love to get you in it. What was the booth?
713.
Okay, yeah. So we'd love to have the opportunity to show you the car and get feedback from you and have a conversation after you've had a chance to experience it, because I think the experiences are best taken in that way. We can talk about them all we want up here, but I think once you hear them, they're very compelling.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Any summary comments from you, Dave?
I think the only thing I'd say in summary really is seat-centric experiences and the personalization that you can get from those types of experiences in cabin and a vehicle in the future is going to be critical, especially as electrification and autonomous driving and those sort of technologies continue to take hold, and we're looking forward to contributing in that way.
All right. Thank you both very much. That's really insightful commentary. We've got a few minutes left for questions and answers. So if anybody has questions for Jeff or Dave or me, we're happy to answer them. I think there's probably some mics floating around, right? Any questions? Oh, sorry, one over here, and then we'll go to Drew in the front.
Uma Arun from Stellantis. Is this similar to the sound bubbles? Have you heard about the company called the Silentium? How different is it from that technology?
So how different? Is
It's like a sound bubble for every person, right?
We've heard it described different ways, right? Sound bubbles is one, sound zones, right, is another one.
Yep. Is that the same technology, or you also, for example, is it only for sound output or also the input? For example, I'm in a phone call. So is there going to be a packaging with a speaker as well as a microphone, or it's pretty much sound output?
You guys got to.
I'm having a little bit of trouble with the echo coming back at me, but so I mean, we're focused on the output experience in the seats, right? Creating localized sound distribution, but it pairs directly, as I think you're saying, with the sound pickup challenge, right? When you want to use.
Oh, right. So what does this sound like outside to the person on the far end, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm in a phone call.
Oh, so does the person on the other end of the phone call hear the music that your passengers are listening to?
Yeah.
So there is technology that we're working on that is designed to solve that problem. You're absolutely right. You know, one of the problems that we have a lot is the whole, are you calling me from inside the car, right? I hear wind noise, I hear HVAC, I hear music. You can tackle that a couple of different ways. We have some technology that others use as well, where we're using arrays of microphones, right, to be able to physically reduce the pickup of noise from areas that aren't the driver's seat or the passenger's seat. One of the other things, we had this at our Consumer Electronics Show event in January, is a technology where we're actually using a neural network filter, right, that's been trained with thousands and thousands of hours of listening to human voice to be able to remove things that aren't voice from the stream so that you get a nice clean pickup on the far end. So,
Yeah,
and then one of you guys have talked about integration, right? And that's an example of where you need to integrate different technologies together in order for the experience to work.
Yeah, I'd really suggest you come by and give it a listen, and then see what your feedback is based on sort of what we brought today, because I think you'd find that there's some interesting elements and maybe some further discussion points around the type of experience specific to what you're talking about around call placement.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's not just for the people inside the car, right? You got to make sure that it works outside the vehicle as well. And Drew, I think you had a question too.
Just a real quick question. Do you have any sort of sub-brand or anything that might be designed for the hardcore audiophile, or as opposed to somebody who wants features and everything, just somebody who's just really into high-end audio? Are you still able to offer that kind of feature or interested in doing that?
Yeah, I think that we want to make sure, you heard Dave talk about immersive music, right? Immersive music is still at the core of everything that we do, and we wouldn't want to sacrifice that to be able to deliver these kinds of seat-centric things that we're talking about. We have the Bose Performance series out in the market, right, in Infinitis and Corvettes and some Cadillacs, right, which is an extension of the brand that is aimed at a higher level of acoustic fidelity and a higher level of acoustic requirement, maybe for someone who's a little more interested, in the real hardcore sound that you're describing. There's still the Bose Advanced Technology series out there, right? The 34 speaker system that was in the Cadillac CT6, right, as an example. So I think, we certainly have the ability to stretch the acoustic performance upwards and downwards depending on the needs of the specific vehicle and the specific OEM that it's going into.
Yeah, if I jump in on that, I mentioned in the context of these seat-centric experiences, the Perceptual sound rendering engine, but that's a technical capability that we've developed in the last few years that is really powering all of our audio experiences, right? And it scales dynamically. We give it perceptual targets, we balance the prioritization of those targets, but as we increase the content, the capability of the transducers, the number of transducers, the performance we can deliver scales. And so we have a very scalable solution from a technology perspective.
Yeah, that system takes all of the degrees of freedom that it has available and uses it to execute these perceptual targets. So it can take an 8-speaker system and make it sound like the most amazing 8-speaker system you've ever heard, or it can take a 20-speaker system and really like blow your doors off.
Or a 34 speaker system.
Or a 34-speaker
Yeah,
system, that's
absolutely. Yeah,
Maybe time for one more?
No, I think
Oh,
we're
all
out of
done?
time.
Okay,
We
we're
got
out
to
of
get
time?
moving.
All right. Sorry.
Thanks so much for you guys coming here and some great information.
Great. Thank you all for your time and your attention. Great talking to you, and we'll see you at the show.
Yeah, thank you.